And we're live. All right, we're doing some awesomeness today. I'm not sure how good it's going to work, but I'm excited about it. I don't know if anyone follows Gary Vaynerchuk on social media, but he's been doing this thing called Over Under. Is this topic overrated, underrated, or appropriately rated? And like I said, I'm not sure how it's going to go with me and Frank here today, but we're going to give it a try. What do you think, Frank?
So I love this little thing that Gary Vee does. I think it's funny. I think it's cool. It's fast paced. So whatever, man. Let's try it. If people like it, we'll do it again.
Okay, so I'll do the first one. This is how we're going to try to get its roll. We'll alternate with the topic, and then we'll both kind of give our opinion. So I'll do a topic. You tell me if you think it's overrated, underrated, and why. And then maybe I'll agree or disagree, and then you'll ask me. Are you ready?
It's got to be quick, though. You can't be debating each one because I got like 25 things. I have a lot.
Yeah, I've got a bunch too. I'm not sure we're going to get through them all. We might have to save them, but we'll see. All right, number one, Frank, overrated, underrated, a VA loan, a Veterans Assistance Loan.
It's properly rated.
Veterans Affairs. Sorry.
I think it's properly rated if you're the veteran that's using the loan. I think if you're selling your house, it's overrated because what I've noticed, some people don't like to sell to people on a VA loan because it can be somewhat of a pain in the butt during the appraisal process. What do you think?
I would say VA loan is way underrated. It's amazing that someone with a VA loan can buy a house with $0 down. So I'm going to say it's underrated. It's an amazing opportunity.
Yeah, if you're the buyer, it's awesome. Okay, so now I'm going?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, the metric, cash on cash return. Overrated or underrated?
Overrated. Okay, overrated these days because it's so easy to do that everyone makes that their number one metric. And the problem with cash on cash is it doesn't take into account any equity you get on purchase, right? So I don't want to get into going into IRR, but the bottom line is if someone's only doing cash on cash, I think they're missing some very important variables. What do you think, Frank?
I agree. It's overrated. I think it's a good metric. I think you should have it if you're doing rentals, but the fact that you can come up with a number and not have to do any analysis of the ARV versus what you bought it for shows a gap in the number. So I think I agree with you. Okay. So your turn.
Yeah, let's go. This is getting fun. Hard money loans, overrated, underrated.
I think it's underrated. I think people are like, oh man, 10% interest, so ridiculous. Let's start a private equity fund. No, I start simple. Hard money has its purpose. If you use it properly, it can be an enabler for your business. Don't poo-poo it. I think it could be fine.
Yeah, I agree. Underrated. So many people are scared of it and they think it's a terrible way to do things. But I look at it like a bridge loan. Like there's a bridge loan industry. There's short-term financing for a reason. So underrated. I like it.
Okay, cool. This is my next one. This is a fun one. It's holidays based as we just exited the holiday season. Thanksgiving dinner. So like the ingredients of Thanksgiving dinner. Turkey, cranberry, all that stuff. Overrated, underrated.
Most people are not good at cooking it. Okay. I love to cook. So I'm going to say appropriately rated though. I love Thanksgiving. I love the football. I love cooking all the good stuff. Make sure you use a meat thermometer with your turkey, but I'm going to say appropriately rated. What about you?
I'm going to say it's overrated. I enjoy turkey, but there's no way you can convince me a turkey tastes better than a nice steak or like a rack of ribs or like a nice cheeseburger. I just can't be convinced of it. So
no, I agree.
Like we wait once a year for a food that it's good, but I'm not that excited about. Like
it would be a pretty amazing holiday if it centered around cheeseburgers. But what do you eat cranberry sauce on your turkey?
My family growing up used to do the canned cranberry, with the canned one with the circles on it. So we did that. So
yeah, that's good. Yeah, I like cranberry. Okay, let's go. Overrated, underrated. Creative financing.
Properly rated. And the reason I'm not saying underrated is because I think there's a lot of people teaching it right now that are leading people towards a path of paying too much for homes. Like I'm in a bunch of groups and I'm seeing people like, you can pay over ARV if you just do this. And I think it's getting a little out of whack. I think it's oversaturated.
Yeah. I look at it like the Swiss Army knife, right? Like you want to have those creative levers to be able to pull. But if you turn into the person that only does creative financing, I think you're going to have issues. So I would say appropriately rated.
Yeah, it's scalable, but it's, I think, harder to scale on the acquisition side of your business just due to the complexity of the offering, Anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
My turn. Okay. Since you've lived in New York for, I don't know, 10 years now, New York bagels. I'm going back-to-back food.
Oh, maybe I'm uninformed and maybe people aren't going to like this, but I'm going to say overrated. If you would have went New York pizza, I love New York pizza, but New York bagels, I like them. I love a good New York bagel, but do I love it more than bagels elsewhere in the country? I don't think so. I think they're overrated.
I have to disagree. I think they're underrated. I think people think pizza, but I think like if you get a bagel outside of New York, it's like champagne. You can only get champagne from France or that one city in Champagne.
Yeah.
Like if you get a bagel outside New York, like that's not a bagel. It's just a piece of bread, right? So that's how I look at it.
All right. I like it. I need to do some funny ones. Okay. I'm gonna. Well, I don't know if it's funny, but I'm gonna throw a random one out there. Apple products, like the iPad and stuff. Overrated, underrated.
I think properly rated. I think Apple is a good company. They have great products. I think they deteriorate quickly, maybe on purpose, maybe not. Like at 2 years, everything bugs out. But while you have them and while they're working, they offer a great product. So I'll say properly rated.
Yeah, I won't speak from an investor perspective, but I think from a consumer perspective, I think it's underrated. Like these AirPods, the idea that I've spent this much on AirPods is ridiculous, but I love them. So I'm going to say underrated.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Okay. I'm going to go with the real estate one. I'm going to get back on topic. So selling a home with a real estate agent, overrated or underrated?
If you are the typical American, way overrated. Okay. The typical American thinks that's the only way. Okay. But the other end of the spectrum is if you're an investor, it's way underrated, right? Because we have this ego in real estate investing where it's like, as soon as you know anything, you're like, I'm never going to pay a real estate agent because they're not worth anything. And I love real estate agents. We use real estate agents on a lot of our deals. Some of our deals, we don't use real estate agents. So I think that averages out to be like appropriately rated, but I think most people overrate them, but investors way, way underrate them. What do you think, Frank?
Yeah, I agree. I think if you're the retail seller, it could be the case that if you get a bad agent, they're like, I just want to get this home off the market right away. So they might not even price it to where you could make the most return if you're not educated. But as an investor, if I feel like an agent is going to help me like evaluate the flip, right, and like give me their honest feedback and price it appropriately and move it quick, like that's leverage, like that's why you hire people in your company. So I agree.
Nice. Let's see. Having a cash buyers list, overrated, underrated?
It's I'm going to say overrated because I think people think they have a cash buyers list and they're like, I'm done. Right? Like I send an email or a text message to my cash buyers list and if the property doesn't sell, I'm tapped out. And I think that is not a great approach. I think if you're on disposition, you need to add to your hustle, right? Like, is your virtual assistant or yourself scrubbing bigger pockets? Are they scrubbing Facebook? Are they using other things to sell your deals? Just don't be only reliant on a cash buyers list is what I'm saying. Yeah.
I think too many people are building a cash buyers list before they find a deal. And then they're spending way too much time on it. Like generally acquisitions is a lot harder than finding buyers generally, right? There's unique cases, but I'm going to say buyers list is overrated.
I would agree with you, but there's nothing worse than getting a good deal and then not making money off of it. There's nothing worse.
You know what they do? If someone gets a good deal, not a crappy deal, right? We get a lot of crappy deals. If someone gets a good deal, just hit up your friends at Greyline and we'll help you dispo it. No problem.
Plug. All right. Okay. My turn, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Self-storage investing.
Appropriately rated. I think understanding the different asset classes is important. But just because you listen to a Bigger Pockets episode with a guru on there talking about mobile home parks or apartment complexes or self-storage doesn't mean you should jump there, right? Like every asset class has goods and bads. Be really careful to jump asset classes. You can do it, but don't spend too much don't spend too little time in one asset class before you go to the next one. So I'm going to say generally overrated. The idea of switching asset classes is overrated. What do you think?
Yeah, I think this question is loaded because like it's dependent upon your goals, right? Like that's very much like it's like a multifamily, right? It's like cash flow centric. What's the cap rate on this thing? How much value add can I do? I think it's overrated if you're buying it as is, right? I think it's underrated if you're finding self-storage facilities that could add a couple thousand square feet or a couple more units, you know? So I think people might forget about the value add there sometimes for whatever reason. And they're like, oh, it's turnkey. But I think you could still value add self-storage, you know?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
So overrated, underrated. Squats at the gym.
I literally had squats and bench press on my like 5 rows down. Squats at the gym. Underrated. I think everyone says like don't skip leg day, but what do people do? They skip leg day, right? So like, it's still underrated. So I think you like I still go to the gym, or when I was going to the gym before COVID, I'd see people doing bicep curls and squat rack. So I know it's not monopolized by squats, right? So like it's underrated.
Yeah, it's definitely underrated. There's no way possible squats could be overrated. I love squats.
Okay, I'm gonna come back and you bench press. Overrated, underrated.
Appropriately rated. Yeah, I could say overrated because a lot of people spend a lot of time there. But I would say it's a very important exercise. So I'm going to say appropriately rated.
Okay, I'm gonna say it's overrated just because the fact that we evaluate professional athletes off of how many times they get throw up 225 on a sport that really values like explosive movement and fluidity I don't buy it.
No, I like that. Okay. Negotiations, overrated, underrated?
Can't be overrated. Like similar to your answer on squats. It's super important, not only to remember that, yeah, you want to win negotiations, but like everyone should feel good leaving a negotiation, right? If you can pull that off, it's never going to be overrated.
Yeah. An interesting thought I had is I think a lot of people find bad deals and they try to negotiate them into good deals. So like in that respect, it's kind of overrated because some people just put so much pressure on themselves that like, you know, hey, I need to get this deal for $70,000 and the owner won't take less than 100. If I was good at negotiations, I could get them down $30,000, right? And I would say generally that person's probably just not motivated. So I think negotiations are super important, but it's also like you have to fill your funnel. So I would say appropriately rated.
That's a fair point. The funnel and the numbers are more important than your negotiation skill in the long run if you're scaling a company, because eventually you won't be the person negotiating every deal, no matter who you are, right? So
if you're doing it right, you know.
Yeah, but then you just lever up your negotiations. You're borrowing money. You're negotiating terms, right? I think it's not overrated because it never stops. But anyway.
Yeah. Okay, I like it. What do you got for me?
Okay, Grant Cardone. Overrated, underrated.
Overrated. I used to be a Grant Cardone fanboy. I love the be obsessed or be average. I love sell or be sold. I love his intensity. I love his focus. I love his ability to think big. When I read his books, I questioned some of his management style. And when he just laid off his entire team, or it seemed like he laid off his entire team as soon as COVID hit, I realized, among other things, I don't think he's a great leader, and I lost some respect for him. I don't have firsthand knowledge, but because of that, I lost respect for him. So I'm going to say Grant Cardone is overrated. Yeah,
I agree. Deferring returns and paying people less than 4% on a multifamily syndication when the multifamily didn't tank, not cool. So I agree.
All right. Buy and hold investing.
I think it's properly rated, man. I think if that's your goal, like it works, right? It's also a great way, even in a marginal deal, you'll make it out on top if you manage it properly and hold it long enough, right? Real estate doesn't go to zero. So I don't think I think some people overrate some of the metrics around it, like cash on cash return, right? But as a strategy itself, it's awesome. It's going to work. So I've given properly rated a lot. I got to get more controversial with my responses, but let's see what you say.
Yeah. I'm going to say buy and hold is overrated. because so many people look at that as the only strategy in real estate, right? There's so many people that won't explore any other strategies. So I'm going to say overrated.
Okay, fair enough. I'm gonna pause this real quick. I'm gonna do our quick promo. If you're enjoying this live video, please share, like, tag a friend, subscribe, add a hashtag underneath this thing, whatever. We're trying to grow our business and get the algorithms in our favor. So please help us out. Appreciate it.
That was amazing. I think you're gonna have a Super Bowl commercial in a couple of weeks. You're all over it, man.
Okay. Wholesaling. Overrated or underrated?
Underrated. If you do listen to enough Bigger Pockets podcasts, wholesaling is like a dirty 4-letter word, right? It's like you cannot do that. And there was a while where we identified ourselves as wholesalers. Now I like to think we're more than wholesalers, but I look at wholesaling as one of our exit strategies. So I would say underrated. I think you definitely need to you definitely need to understand how to wholesale deals.
I think it is a skill that people don't appreciate. I agree with that. I think it depends on the audience. I think the general public, it's underrated, right? Because they're all buy and hold, like Bigger Pockets community. They don't understand the benefits or the skill set you gain during wholesaling. But I think in the e-commerce, like hustler community, it's overrated. There's so many gurus and educators trying to throw people into this market. And I think it's getting a little crowded. So that makes me think it's more overrated than it was in the past. So I'll just put it that way.
No, I agree with that. I think we talk about sending text messages and getting deals. So then people are like, hey, I'm going to listen to one of your guys' live videos and I'm going to do that. And I'm like, hey, I love it. I want you to succeed. But they don't hear the part when we're like, we usually send 2,000 text messages to get one lead. And then it's going to take us somewhere between 5 and 20 leads to get a deal. So that's a lot of text messages.
Yeah. Or when the seller backs out like the day before closing, and then you end up with like, oh my God, the buyer's going to sue. It's dude, like it's hard. It requires persistence, just like any small business.
Yes.
We got one from the group. We have to cover it. Guaranteed. Triple option.
There we go.
We have to do it. So you go.
Well, in Northern Michigan, where I grew up, we call this the veer, right? And we were not a veer team. We were a wing tee team, which I'm a big fan of the wing tee as well. But I think triple option football, not overrated during the Nebraska days, right? Like not overrated when they were running the wishbone at Oklahoma. And I think a couple years ago was probably overrated, but I think Army has been really good the last couple of years. So I think it might be underrated, but it's probably appropriately rated. To think that we've been ranked in the top 25 a couple different times in the last couple of years, I think it's probably appropriate. But that's a great question. I like it. What do you think, Frank?
Yeah, I think it's underrated because I think if great athletes used it, they would crush people. The problem is it's hard to recruit people and tell them they're going to run the option because that is dirty work, right? So someone who wants to play in the NFL is not. They don't want to cut block. Receivers want to catch the football. So like I think it's underrated as an offense, but it's hard to recruit. So I'll leave it at that. Andrew Watson also said Killeen, Texas, where he had invested.
Yeah, I like it.
And we have as well. I'll go first. I think so. Killeen, Texas is a place where I think you can definitely win on price, but I'm going to go out, even though we market homes there. I think there's other wholesalers in the Killeen market that are offering deals that are kind of out of whack with the pricing of that particular market. So I'm going to say it might be a little cooked, might be starting to get like properly rated to a little bit overrated. If you're paying retail prices, because they've seen it, the market's getting extremely hot. Duplexes and quadplexes that used to sell for 200 are now 275, 300. So I think it's a great place if you're trying to earn rental income or maybe do like a small risk type flip, but I think it's getting overrated, to be honest, unless you get good deals through Greyland.
Right. I think it's appropriately rated. I think a lot of money is going out of the Austin area because it's expensive, and they're getting a lot more returns, a lot more conservative returns up by Killeen. So I really like Killeen. So I'm going to say appropriately rated. Andrew, I don't know if you heard though, we're getting ready to hit, or we're hitting right now Round Rock in the surrounding areas around Round Rock. So we'll hopefully have some deals coming down there soon.
Andrew literally might get our direct marketing sent to his cell phone because he lives, I think, right around there. Anyway.
Okay, my turn. Let's each maybe go like 2 or 3 more.
Okay.
This is one that I think both of us can speak passionately about. Is did you just do that? Did you just click that up there?
Yeah, I was hovering my mouse over it when I clicked it. Ignore that. Sorry.
All good. All right. So, overrated, underrated virtual assistants.
Underrated. Super underrated. 90% of small business owners or wholesalers that hire virtual assistants, I think, try to treat them like task rabbits, and I think that completely underappreciates the capabilities of the persons that do the job. I mean, we've actually went through cycles in our company where we promoted people that did really awesome work. We've given them more responsibility. We'll give them more responsibility. We've had virtual assistants close deals, like sell deals, like close them, like get the price and everything done. So like completely underrated.
Yeah, way underrated. Like any business you have, you should get some virtual assistants, because if you think about arbitraging wages across the world, right? And the whole world is flat. You can pay people what is a good wage in their company and maybe less than what it is here in America. And everyone wins. And our company would not be close to what it is today without virtual assistants. So way underrated. We got one more from Andrew that I think that'll be good. So what do you think?
Cold calling becoming underrated. I think back in the day in the off-market space, it was direct mail, driving for dollars, cold calling. But as technology's taken more and more hold, people want to rely on text, pay-per-click, Facebook ads, whatever. They want to take the calling and the hustle out of it because it's more convenient. But in our business, the most efficient way for us to reach out to a seller from a cost perspective is still cold calling, right? At least from a virtual wholesaling perspective. So I think it's underrated. Although you can't send out 1 million cold calls in a month, but it is effective per attempt. So that's it. That's my answer.
I think you could do 1 million cold calls in a month. Maybe we'll see. But I think it's underrated too, right? I think when we think of our company and where we want to go and what we want to do, we think a lot about what are the iBuyers in the United States doing, and what an iBuyer typically uses technology, and they buy houses at a discount and then try to sell them at market value. And that's similar to what we do. But I think cold calling is what most iBuyers are not going to do, because they want to use technology. They want to use ad spends like pay-per-click and Facebook advertising and stuff. So I think one opportunity right now is you can grow significantly and become an iBuyer if you're willing to do some of the harder outreach marketing like cold calling. So underrated.
Yeah.
Your turn, Frank. What do you got? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, like, Invitation Homes, I know because I've spoken to some of their acquisition managers before. They acquire homes by dealing with people like us. So I'm like, they're never going to hustle and get as good deals as we are because they're just getting them from us marked up, you know? So like, the big guy's never going to hustle like the small guy, right? So that's where we have to win. So cold calling, I agree. My turn? Sorry.
Yeah. Why don't you go?
Okay. This is my last one. Turnkey properties.
I mean, for a lot of people, they'd be overrated, right? Like if you have hustle, if you have time, hustle, money, you probably shouldn't be buying turnkey, right? But if you're in a position in your life where you want a conservative investment that's not going to take much time, if you want to get your feet wet, I think turnkeys can be good. So overall, I'll say appropriately rated, but you need to understand that they're not a good fit for every situation.
I agree. I think they're properly rated. There's bad turnkey providers out there. So I'm going to remove them from the equation for a second. I think they're properly rated. I think right now people are like, well, if I want to be passive, I'll just put it in the VT Sachs or the S&P 500 and I'll make 18%. Like that, this is uncommon times from an investment perspective in terms of stock market returns. I think during normal conditions, like turkeys can still be a good investment. You get the tax benefits, still get some rental income, mild depreciation, mortgage pay down. Like it can work. So I'm going to say appropriate or properly rated.
Okay, let's go. Let me do another real estate one, then let's both ask each other one that's not real estate related.
Okay.
Let's see, real estate wise. Let's see, paying for a mastermind.
I think I'll say it's underrated. If you find the right person, right? So there's a contingency in there. I think, actually, I'll change my answer. It's underrated if you've already read some books and know some stuff, right? I think once you've learned or read 3 or 5 books, you listen to all the podcasts, like people think they know a lot, right? But you're never going to know as much as the next guy that's been doing it for 2 to 5 years or has a million reps under their belt. So humble yourself. And once you've learned a little bit, spend money on a mastermind. I think it's overrated if you have absolutely no knowledge baseline, because then it's difficult to get a value out of a mastermind.
Yeah, I think paid masterminds generally are way underrated, right? But I think I have to caveat that with expectations. I look at paid masterminds and paid coaching like accelerators, right? Like if you are on a path to be successful, if you pay for a mastermind, it can help you accelerate faster. But if you are not on a path to be successful, you can pay for all the courses and all the coaching and all the gurus, and you're still not going to be successful, right? So I think that's really hard to quantify. But if you're ever thinking about that, thinking like, am I looking to save time? Because if you're looking to save time, then I think paid mastermind coaching is great. If you're like, hey, I don't think I'd be able to do this at all unless I paid a coach to help me, then I would question whether it'd actually be worth it.
Yeah, there's no silver bullet, right? That's a good point. Okay. So you got to give me, you said mastermind. So I got to give you a non-real estate one. Okay. Yeah. I'm doing this because Adam Parsons is in our team. He's a huge Green Bay Packers fan. Playoffs are upon us. Aaron Rodgers, underrated, overrated?
Let's see. I think I don't want to just give a vanilla answer here, but I think he's appropriately rated, right? Like he's a great quarterback, plays, in a great franchise in a unique place. I've spent a lot of time in Green Bay, Wisconsin. I love the fact that he was on Jeopardy. A lot of things I like about the guy, but I'm also grew up a Detroit Lions fan, so it's really hard. My family will disown me if I become an Aaron Rodgers fanboy. So I'm going to say appropriately rated. What about you?
I think underrated. I think statistically his QB rating is like #1 of all time. Mahomes might pass him, but I think everyone's like all over Mahomes because I think he is better and he's younger and he's flashier. But Aaron Rodgers is still superior arm talent, way more athletic than people, I think, give him credit for. So I'm going to say he's underrated. Okay.
I came up with a lot of non-real estate ones, so it's hard for me to pick my last one. But I'm going to go with chicken thighs. Are chicken thighs overrated or underrated?
There might be nothing more underrated than chicken thighs. Chicken thighs are inexpensive, super tender. And like, I can't say enough how much I think chicken thighs are not utilized enough in American cuisine. It's slam dunk.
I love that we've never talked about this before, but we are perfectly aligned here. Chicken thighs are amazing, about 1,000 times better than a chicken breast, and they're cheaper.
Totally. People like throw them away. Like it's absurd. Okay. Rodgers equals overrated. Go Bears. Get out of here. Bears are done. Bears are over, guys.
Okay. Hey, if you like this, again, please make sure you throw a comment or a like, a subscribe. Really appreciate it. Make sure you get on our cash buyers list. All right. If you want to stay up to date with everything we're doing, if you want to talk about what it's like to be in our mastermind, we've got a paid mastermind group. We're also thinking about other educational opportunities we may explore at some point. So if you want to stay up to date on all that stuff, make sure you get on our email list. Frank, you got any words of wisdom to close it out?
No, I mean, if you want to get involved, we have a mastermind. We got an email list. We sell deals. If you want to be educated, we got you. If you want to buy deals, we got you. GraylineInvestments.com, GraylineAcademy.com. That's it.
All right.